I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
African heritage causes are getting a big boost from the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation's Unity Fund. We'll have an update.
We'll have a special intersection story on a groundbreaking Duluth police officer and her efforts that won equal pay for female police officers.
And we'll take a tour of the Sappi Mill in Cloquet, a proud company with a long history in Wood City.
Those stories and voices of the region coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Denny, the rain this week really has our lawns greening up quickly.
Ooh, I like seeing that. I love spring. Good time of the year.
I do too. Now, if we could just get some sunshine to go along with it, I think things would really start to pop.
I hope this weekend to see some sun. They're saying so on Saturday, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. You bet.
All right, let's begin with the headlines.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. A Minnesota House Senate Conference Committee has agreed on a $3 billion tax bill that will send money back to taxpayers. Families that meet income thresholds will receive tax credits for children, and many will see Minnesota's tax on Social Security income eliminated. $260 individual rebate checks are also part of the tax deal.
Essentia Health CEO Dr. David Herman traveled to Washington, D.C. this week to testify before a Senate subcommittee. Herman testified to the Senate Subcommittee on Finance Wednesday about issues facing rural health care. Herman spoke about value-based health care that emphasizes knowing your patients and what they need and delivering that care in a timely manner.
Construction will begin next week to replace a bridge on Minnesota Highway 73 south of Hibbing. The highway will be fully closed at the West Swan River Bridge just north of County Road 16 until early September. A detour will direct motorists to Highway 169 to Highway 65 south to County Road 18 to get around the construction zone.
And the City of Superior is looking for musicians to take part in the second Make Music Superior Day on June 21st. Superior's event is part of the Global Make Music Day, a celebration on the summer solstice each year. Interested musicians can sign up for the event at makemusicday.org/Superior.
The Unity Fund of the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation was created to support the African heritage community in the Twin Ports and the Iron Range. Well, after 2 years of fundraising and planning, the Unity Fund is now ready to create opportunities across the region. Here with more is Salam Witherspoon, the Unity Fund Committee Chair, and Carl Crawford is a Unity Fund Committee member and Duluth's Human Rights Officer. Welcome, Salam and Carl. Thank you very much for both of you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Good to have you. Well, Salam, what is the Unity Fund all about? What is it?
It is an opportunity for African heritage folks to invest in ourselves while we can support like local initiatives that are to create events for our community.
Mm-hmm. Carl, when you hear the word unity in that title, what does that mean to you, and how does that really advance the African American community in this region?
Thank you, Julie. Unity is such a powerful word because the most important word is letters in the middle, I, that brings us all together. So the Unity Fund is an opportunity for us to reach across some of the normal challenges we've had to create unity in our city.
Mm-hmm. So what progress is being made?
You know, we're really excited. It was just a short 2 years ago that we were right here on this stage having the conversation of what we want to see from the Unity Fund. Now we've had the match, and Salam will talk a little bit more about that, how excited we are that we're actually able to get to the point to give those funds to our community to create some change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Carl gave you the opening.
Very much. Yeah, so we are excited to announce our match, and what it is, it's a so we take a look at the process of grant making and what folks are accessibility. Mm-hmm. And it gives opportunities to people who are not very experienced in writing grants. And so it will fund some things that normally grants will not cover. Like, mm-hmm. Community African heritage specific events, workshops, maybe education or sustainability of something else. I hope that you got
So what's the application process? I'm sure that they have to be applied for.
Yes, right now there's going to be a site on our website that you'll be able to go to and apply for the funds at the Unity Fund and through Duluth Superior Area Foundation. And there's going to be a process. And one of the things we are excited about is we're looking at how we're challenging traditional ways that folks used to apply and receive funding.
Sure.
We're looking at it from a cultural lens and understanding that we are trying to remove some of the barriers that stop people before they even start.
You mentioned some of the possible uses for the funds. Do you have priorities really set up as far as how you're going to weigh those applications that come in and the types of programs or projects that you would like to fund?
I wouldn't say priorities, but we are going to focus more on like history, like provide educational pieces like history for folks to really who are maybe starting with ideas for businesses or furthering their education, or we're still really diving into like what that's going to look like. But I think we're going to be open to new ideas and hopefully impact the community.
So, Carl, what do you think are some of the heritage causes in Duluth Superior that need immediate attention?
Well, obviously there's those historical factors that we often hear about, but need more support to tell the real narrative of Duluthians, of that American history through the lens of the African heritage experience. So those are going to be some of the things we're going to be looking at. And the other opportunity we have, obviously, is to recognize the amazing partnership, not only with the Duluth Superior Area Foundation, but with grandmas, and the way that we've been able to bring Juneteenth to reach even more of an audience through our partnership, and really excited about that.
Talk about that a little bit. What's going to be going on in conjunction with grandmas that really raises the profile of Juneteenth?
Well, along with Salam, we're really excited about the opportunity to have our second annual Elders Luncheon, and that'll be Friday at 11:30 to 1 o'clock, where we recognize our many significant values that our elders bring to the table. We've been celebrating Juneteenth in Duluth long before the federal holiday.
Oh, yeah.
And there's many people that have kept this tradition alive in our community, and it's time to recognize them.
So what type of conversations, then, Carl, should we be having in our homes relative to human rights? What should we talk about?
I think most importantly, we should talk about why the conversation matters and how do we look at each other? How do we know our neighbors? Look to our right and left. Most of us don't even know our neighbors anymore. There was a time growing up, we knew who the neighbors were, who the kids were, and we connected on that value. So often we close the door and we don't even know who our neighbors are. It's time for us to get back out and understand community.
One of the things that's really significant about this fund is the fact that it's led by members of the African heritage community. Why is that such an important piece of the whole thing, that you have ownership in how these funds are being used in the community?
Because it just goes back to the saying, like, if you're not at the table, then you'll be on the menu, versus like where the ownership comes in, and why it's so important is because we know what we need. A lot of things are adopted by different, like, similar sized communities in different areas that are not specific to our needs, and we have to kind of adjust to it. But this gives us the opportunity to, like, say, no, I need this and this, I don't need that.
I'm sure we find racism in schools. What's being done in our schools to battle racism?
I mean, there's a lot of initiatives going on, but what's not going on is, like, more community buy-in. I don't know if it's, I don't think that anyone's to blame for it, but there just needs to be more awareness, and people, like, especially parents, just need to go and be more involved, but more so, they need to know that they are able to be involved.
Well, that's nice to hear.
So you have reached the point where you've met the match, or the matches, with the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation and the Ordine. But I imagine fundraising still continues.
Oh yes,
So-
don't stop now.
So if people who are watching tonight are interested in participating and donating, what do they do?
There'll be opportunities to always go to the website and give. We plan on having a booth as well at Grandma's doing that opportunity to capture more funding. But more importantly, just stop and pause. And when it comes time to give, and think about this amazing opportunity we have to create change.
And with that, we have to call it quits. Carl Crawford, Duluth Human Rights Officer, Salam Witherspoon, Unity Fund Committee Chair. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you so much.
Thank you. Well, next, a story from PBS North's Intersection series, which focuses on local community members who inspire us with stories of overcoming adversity. Tonight, we meet a retired Duluth police officer who helped bring equal pay to female officers. Videographer-editor Tomas Soderberg brings us Donetta Wickstrom's story.
My husband and I were contemplating selling the home that we were in and building a new home. Then we went to a bank in Duluth, and during the application process, the gentleman said, "We can't count your salary." And I said, "Why?" And his comment was, "You're in your childbearing years." And I think I said to him, "Well, we have 2 children and that's what we intend to keep as our family, but you could still get pregnant. But if you had a letter from your doctor saying that you had had a hysterectomy and wouldn't be able to have children, then we could count your salary." And I turned to my husband and I said, "We're out of here." I think that was a spark for some of my later attitude and expressions with regard to seeking to have the pay equalized, but also to have the opportunity for advancement. I wanted to help people. And when this opportunity to be a police officer arrived, I really felt like I could do something that would help other people. This is when I became eligible for the sergeant exam, and it also refers to when I filed a lawsuit with the Minnesota State Attorney General's office for equalized pay with the patrolman and for opportunity for advancement.
Actually, when I got done watching it, I really wanted to just go and hug her and tell her thank you for paving the way for us as we continue to move forward. And a double thank you because now my daughter is a police officer in the city of Duluth, and so she paved the way for both of us. We've come so far. Her pay wasn't the same, and she's doing the exact same job, and she's not getting paid for it.
The federal government passed the equal pay for equal work. Now, I had gone to my union and I had asked them to seek equalized pay. And the comments that I got back were, well, there are other officers who are in specialty fields and they need to come first. So just hang in there and maybe someday. And I commented that you don't just someday adherence to a federal law. The union contract needs to be approved by the city council, and it was coming up in that month in December, 1971, I think it was. The union executive committee was present. They said, well, yeah, if you're willing to give the women that, that's fine. It doesn't take anything away from the men. And they approved it for that contract, and the first reading was signed. Immediately after that meeting, 10 more experienced senior officers on the police department filed a complaint with the executive committee demanding that they rescind their approval of the raise to bring us in compliance. The comments were, no woman could do my job. What would my wife think if I worked with a female officer on night shift in patrol? And I just looked at him and I said, that's not my problem. I'll deal with my husband. You deal with your wife. It has nothing to do with me. But it was the times, and it was hanging on to the way things were in the past. It took 4 years to get that filing into court for a hearing. We resolved the lawsuit with the state and the city for equal pay. It was automatic. The administrator of the court case made it. But he didn't want to tackle the promotional element of it. And he said, I want the city and the union to agree. Eli Militich even though we disagreed on some things, he said, "I can see the handwriting on the wall." And he wrote a letter to the Civil Service Board and said, "I recommend that all the police women rank be changed to police officer, and that their date of tenure begins with their date of hire." And they agreed, and the city council agreed, and after that date I was eligible to take the sergeant's test and the lieutenant's test. It was a good job, and I had wonderful, hardworking officers, and we had a lot of fun, and as a result I got a lot of birthday cakes too.
Sappi Paper in Cloquet celebrated a milestone this week, turning 125 years old. Producer Megan McGarvey and videographer Isaac Quick got an inside look into how the Sappi Paper Mill has incorporated its past into innovating for its future.
Reinvention and innovation have been the two pillars for Sappi Paper Mill here in Cloquet after 125 years of existing.
The mill was built on the banks of the St. Louis River here, and if you've ever noticed with a paper mill, they're always built around a large body of water. The reason for that is it takes an incredible amount of water to make paper. Under Northwest Paper, we started off with 3 original paper machines that were 90 inches wide each. This machine was built in the 1930s. Since then, it's undergone multiple upgrades, drive upgrades, modernization projects. So this machine is making our cover weights. So anything from, if you ever open up a magazine, you see that little 3x5 card falls out of the magazine, that's called reply card. That can be made right here on this machine. We also make grades all the way up to what we call 238-pound cover. So if you've ever ordered like an iPhoto album, you've ever ordered something from Shutterfly, Snapfish, a lot of that can be made on this machine right here. So this is our automatic roll storage and retrieval system. Again, another good example of automation. There's 504 storage bays in here. And if you notice, every roll has a barcode on the end. To give you an idea, each roll is about the weight of a car.
If you look at 2005, the paper industry changed completely. If you look at Facebook, you know, they got 2 billion, north of 2 billion subscribers, right? So advertising changed completely. All ads were online. People were utilizing Facebook. In 2007, the iPhone was released. So now you've got a portable device that allows you to socially interact with everybody. And again, advertisers were all over that. If you look at the production of coated graphic papers, coated mechanical papers, the volume from 2005 until now has been cut in half. And so you've got to change completely. A lot of mill closures occurred from this point forward, and so we had to adapt to that. And that's really the reason why we have you here today, is that we've been able to survive even though these two things happened that were significant in the paper industry. In 2013, that was really the big event. That was when we took our pulp mill and we converted it to dissolving pulp. That was a $175 million project, and really changed the face of what we do here. We make a brand called Verve. So Verve is very unique, it's very high quality. It's used as a raw material for making rayon, and rayon is a synthetic material that's used to make textiles. Think of the clothes you wear, the linens that you buy.
This, right now, we're making our product that's more for the textile industry. So this gets used and made into the rayon, and then there's a lot of offshoots of some of the different products that get made off of that. our finished product, it's about, on average, it's about 6 to 8 times the thickness of a normal sheet of paper, almost like wallboard or tagboard, but it's very, very pure cellulose, and that's what our customers need. Pure cellulose, and not that hemicellulose and not the lignin.
If you think about 125 years, we've had people that have worked more than 25 years that are part of our quarter century club. And so there's 100 years of quarter century employees now. When you think about longevity at a facility like this, it really boils down to having generations of people that are really interested in forest products. You know, they got to make it work.
And thank you, Megan, for that report. It's time now for Voices of the Region, when we hear from a regional journalist about stories they are following. Our guest this week is Heidi Holtan from Northern Community Radio in Grand Rapids.
This week, we featured a conversation with one of our contributing reporters and producers, Leah Lem. Leah used to produce a program for us called Northern Voices, conversations about tradition, sustainability, and indigenous and ancestral ways of life in northern Minnesota. One of the guests she featured a couple of times was Shirley Nordrum. Shirley passed away earlier this month unexpectedly. She was from the Red Lake Nation, and she worked and lived on the Leech Lake Nation. She was awarded a Bush Fellowship in 2022 to strengthen culturally relevant science courses for schools. Here's Shirley from a conversation with Leah Lem.
In my Ojibwe language, my name is Lenasekwe, which is a Thunderbird woman, and my colonial name is Shirley Nordrum. I'm of the Martin clan. So I remember in ecology, a professor specifically saying, that deer don't love their babies. It's just a baby, and they have a baby and they raise it, and it goes away, and they don't have any feelings, emotional feelings for that little animal. And I absolutely know that to be false. I've seen that be false. It was that type of trying to talk about these things in that way that, that's where I would get dinged. That's just not part of the way that science is laid out, and not the Western science anyway.
Black bears are roaming the region right now, and the Minnesota DNR is getting a lot of calls about them. We talked with Andy Try. He is the bear project leader for the Forest Wildlife Management Group at the Minnesota DNR. They're talking to the public about bears right now and how we can all be bear wise. A couple of things to keep in mind. If you feed the birds, you should clean up spills every day, and you should take your feeders in at night. We also talked for a while with Andy about how much a bear actually eats. So he described a standard 7-pound tube feeder that's between 5,000 and 8,000 calories of sunflower seeds. So bears are really looking for something like that right now because they need that many calories. Andy told us more about what the bears are eating right now.
It's pretty cool to think about because you have an animal that's adapted to basically get all of the calories or the bulk of the calories that they need in about 3.5 months. And then they sleep much of the rest of the year, or at least hibernate most of the year. And so this time of year, the first things that they target are green vegetation. And so when we capture bears, their teeth are stained green from the chlorophyll of the grass and the clover that they're eating. But a lot of them are spending a fair amount of time out in wetlands right now, eating those emergent vegetation pieces. They'll eat arrowhead, and they'll sometimes dig cattail tubers, that sort of thing. Additionally, skunk cabbage is a favorite early this time of year, and skunk cabbage is an amazing plant. It generates its own heat and sometimes will melt snow around it. So it's that very first plant that's available. Bears that happen to be awake early will just pound it.
We talked to Laura Erickson this week. She's author of 11 bird books and a resident of Duluth. She produces For the Birds for public radio stations around the region. Hummingbirds are starting to show up, and we asked Laura for specifics about feeding them. And we learned a little bit about how they make their nests.
On cold days, make the ratio of sugar to water 1/3 of a cup to 1 cup. But on normal situations, and if it's like yesterday, it was 80 degrees in my neighborhood in Duluth near the lake, then it should only be 1/4 cup to a cup. The way you get them to nest in your yard, you need a few trees that have at least fairly big limbs. They need spider silk and they need lichens to build their nest. So don't be using pesticides and don't wipe out all those spider nests, the spider webs up in your eaves if it's in a place that nobody looks at anyway. The hummingbirds need that to build their nest.
And a program note before we go. Next week in this time slot, we will feature a special hour-long Almanac North Core conversation. The topic is missing and murdered Indigenous relatives and efforts to end this scourge, moderated by Native Report host Rita Karppinen. So please tune in for that important program. And Denny, it's about time for some warmer weather here at the head of the lakes. I think we deserve it.
I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
All right.
Okay.
For Dennis Anderson and the crew at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.